Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be doing my review of the Starfinder 2nd Edition Alien Core Token Box. So back when the Murder in Metal City the Deluxe Adventure came out, I mentioned that it was kind of odd that they went with tokens over the traditional pawns that they'd been using for Pathfinder and Starfinder, especially where the Pathfinder Deluxe Adventure or Game Night box set or whatever you want to call it had the more conventional stand-up 2D cardstock pawns. But apparently that's just simply the direction that they're going to go. So Pathfinder will have the pawn sets, whereas Starfinder is going to be using the tokens. So let's just go ahead and get the take a look at the box art here. So I do love the Starfinder 2nd Edition covers there, the way they look. They kind of all have the sort of purplish sort of theme to them. And I'm totally okay with that because that's my favorite color. But yeah, we got a cybernetic demon or daemon type creature shooting some things here. You got some stuff in the background. It's kind of interesting that it's creatures fighting creatures, although it is the Alien Core box, so I guess that makes sense. Taking a look at the sides here, we do see some other artwork for it. And let me tell you, this box is quite heavy. This is a very heavy box. On the back is a list of all the different pawns that you're getting, as well as the number that you're getting in the parentheses there. So this does retail for $59.99, but for $59.99 or for $60, you are getting over 350 creature tokens to use in your Starfinder 2nd Edition campaign. And they do actually go from tiny, small, medium to large to even huge and gargantuan, which is actually kind of surprising because normally huge is the cutoff, so I don't know if huge and gargantuan are going to have different sized pawns, or if they're just going to be kind of the same thing, but just to have at least the some of the gargantuan creatures represented. That I'm not entirely sure of, but let's go ahead and open it up and we will take a look. All right. Okay. So I took the plastic off earlier just to make this easier on me because I couldn't find my knife for the longest time. Found it right after I managed to finally get the plastic off, though. But this is really interesting. So I do have a couple of the pawns here that we can do a little sort of comparison to. But one of the first things is, obviously with the tokens, they're going to be laying flat on the table face up. And it's actually, it kind of mimics the virtual tabletop kind of look. And where I set up my games anyway is at my kitchen table, so everybody's sitting around it. So I think the tokens might actually be easier to see for all the players than some of the pawns. So I do have two of the pawns here, and we have our Aeon Guard, Aslanti, soldiers here. And as you can see, you got the pawns there. You can also get a lot more because these would take up two slots there for the token. So you can pack more into the box, which is pretty cool. But some of the other things here, if you look at the bottom of the bases for the token, or not even the bottom of the base of the token, but just the bottom of the artwork for the tokens, they actually have these color-coded indicators on the token itself, just at the very bottom of the token. They do have them on the pawns as well, but they're little dots that are kind of off to the side in the bottom of the thing. And depending on the orientation that you have, the pawns at your table, depending on how they might be facing some of the player characters, the colored indicators are easier to see in some positions than others. The other thing with the pawns is that the base also covers up the name of the token or of the pawn, so you do have that as well. But let's take this out. And again, some really nice artwork here. But yeah, I do like the colors there. Very easy to spot. There's not going to be any confusion, but it doesn't matter which way this thing is facing. You're going to be able to, right? If the token's like that, or even like that, you're still going to be able to see the colored indicator on the bottom there. So I really, really do like that. And on the back, it just has the names of the creatures. So yeah, that's kind of cool to see again. So we got the Aeon Guard there. What is this guy? Emissary Angel. Okay. But yeah, really, really cool. I like the fact that the names are on the bottom there because again, you're going to be facing it. You're going to be facing it up. But if I have these organized behind my screen, excuse me, if I have these organized behind my screen, this is the way that I would go about it. So that was our first sheet there, and we've already got some larger creatures showing up here. So this would be a large size, huge, and again, I don't know if it's huge and gargantuan, but got some pretty big stuff going on here. Blood Brother. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool looking. Again, I love the artwork and the designs for the Starfinder RPG. It's like with fantasy, like I said, it feels like you're almost sort of constrained by certain things. All right, but when you go to sci-fi or science fantasy or whatever you want to call it, it just seems like the restrictors are taken off and becomes just some really bizarre, interesting stuff there. So we got some different dragons on there, and those would be the adult dragons. Think of those giants. Yeah, moon giant on the top there. And that is an elemental shipbreaker. This guy here. And those, yeah, little little elemental scamps that they have as well. So again, some cool artwork there. So we'll just go through and we'll take a look at the sheets there. If you want to look at them in a little bit more detail, then by all means feel free to pause the video. But we're just going to go through here and count how many. I guess I should have been counting how many sheets we've gone through so far, but I've got a really terrible memory for that anyway. Oh, yeah, some really cool artwork there. The Pharaoh ooze, or the Pharaoh fluid ooze. Some robots. And again, they're all numbered on the back. And if there's multiples of the same one, they're still just given the same number there. Okay, yeah, I like that guy. What's that guy there? The Waste Wither Ooh, or Elemental. Some more large sizes there. So, okay, so we got the Ancient Dragon. So it looks like they're about the same size tokens. They're just they take up. They're not any larger than the huge size tokens. But they do have different artwork for the dragons, so that's pretty cool to see. And I love this. This dragon, I think, was on the cover of the Player Core book. And that is the Akashic Dragon. Or Akashic Dragon. Of the irradiated undead charger, the boars there. Swarm of some sort there. The Passion Swarm. Okay. I'm not good at pronouncing things that I've never heard said before. So just, bear with me. Some trolls along the bottom there. Mutant trolls and warp trolls. And then the last two sheets there. You even got a War Machine, Robotic Advance, kind of like a little mech thing there. Directly below that, we got the Wayward Warp. So that's looking pretty cool. And then the last sheet. That looks troubling. So plasma ooze. Okay. All right. So 229. Yeah, 229 unique creatures there, and over 350 pawns total. And that is on, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, so on 15 sheets. So we got 15 sheets of cardstock here. Like I said, this is a very beefy box. There's no room for any waste or any, there's no wasted space in this box set, and you get all kinds of cool tokens to use for your game. I do hope that, the Murder Metal City did have some player character stuff, but I do hope that they release another set of tokens for player characters, like a player core token set or something along those lines. When it comes to the tokens versus the pawns, I kind of think I'm leaning towards the tokens, just because, again, we're all sitting at my table. So the map's in the middle of the table. Everybody can see it there. And I do know that there have been times where, that's what one of the players would see with the pawn because of the way that it was facing. So, it's with the tokens, there's not going to be any of that. You're not going to have to, go, okay, well, what's this one? All right, and sort of do that, or have to look for the little color indicator because it's a lot easier to see there on it. So I think I do like them. And again, you can also fit more tokens in the same amount of space that, again, one pawn takes up 2 rows where the tokens are. And again, if you're familiar with virtual tabletops and stuff like that, then the token approach is what you're probably going to be used to, because that's what a lot of them, the style that they kind of use anyway. So I do like that. I think it's also a bit of a cost-cutting situation, because you don't have to worry about producing these plastic bases. And when it comes to the pawn sets, I do have several of these pawn sets that do not come with the bases. So it's one of those situations where you're, sometimes scrambling to find them, or you're going to have to buy them separately. So just cutting them out altogether, being able to fit more tokens in your box set there. I think that's, for me, I kind of prefer that approach to the pawns. And I like the pawns. Like I said, I do like these as a cheap alternative to traditional minis. But again, these are just going to be really easy to see at your table there. And the back of the token is, the name of the creature. So it's a little bit easier to organize as well, because again, they do say what they are, but it's at the very bottom of the pawn there. And as you can see, if they get used a lot, the base sometimes falls off relatively easily there. So I do like this. I do like this new approach. I just hope that we do see some for the player characters. And I mean, $60 is a lot. So what I would basically recommend is that if you are serious about running long-term Starfinder games, then this is going to come in really, really handy for you. Especially with it being like Starfinder, because I'm running Starfinder game now where I'm just trying to use the miniatures that I have for my D&D minis collection. Just try to find anything to sort of proxy in as best as I can. And it can be very difficult to do that, because there's some funky art designs in Starfinder. So I would probably start using these tokens actually at my gaming table. So I do like the approach, and you do get, again, 350 plus of these tokens, 229 individual tokens. So that's a really solid collection for $60. And the fact that it also includes huge and gargantuan size, again, they don't distinguish between the size of the pawn for gargantuan or huge, so that might be a bit of an issue for your table. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be it doesn't really bother me all that much. But the fact that it includes those means that gargantuan creatures are not omitted from the pawn sets like they usually are in past pawn sets. So there have been things that, for example, in the Starfinder pawns or the Pathfinder pawns, that if they were larger than huge, they just simply weren't in the set, because they just didn't want to have anything like that large for the pawns. So I would rather them be included and just be the slightly wrong scale. You can always draw a little border around the pawn set if you want to, or the pawn if you want to make it slightly larger on your grid, or you could have a 4x4 thing already cut out and just place it on top of that. But I do like the fact that they at least include them so that you can have them at your table. And again, the artwork for the ancient dragons, even though the bases were the same size as the adult dragons, there were different as well. So you are getting sort of that distinguishing artworks between the two different types of similar creatures. So really, really cool. I'm a big fan of this box set, and yeah, I'm glad I have it at my table. So yeah, if you are, like I said, if you're going to be really into Starfinder and you're looking to run games and use that sort of visual representation at your table, then this is something that I highly, highly recommend. And again, this is a beefy box, no wasted space, no empty, there's no like cardboard spacers in this one. You just get a ton of pawns, or a ton of tokens, I guess, that you can use at your table there. So again, hoping for a player character version at some point in the near future, or even if the player characters do get like the pawns so that they can stand out from one another at the table, that could also be a thing. But I'm a big fan of the tokens here. I enjoyed them back with my 4th edition box sets, and I would enjoy using them now at my gaming table. So anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, take care.